What's going on, everybody? This Afro Think Tank. So today I want to talk about how some continental Africans believe that they have more of a claim to African knowledge and Africanness than other Africans who don't live in Africa. All right, let me explain what I'm saying. So I put a post up. It's a picture of some boys, right, with a imposed Jesus Christ on their foreheads. Basically, the picture is just saying, you know, how the white Christian Jesus Christ is the thing that the Christianity is the thing that the last remaining thing that is used to enslave our minds, which is true, because in reality Christianity was beat into us. Christianity, the way we became Christians, because a lot of people don't like to think about these type of things, the way we became Christians, the overwhelming way we became Christians is because it was beat into us. It was graped into us. It was murdered into us. All right, it was forced upon us because the Europeans used Christianity as a tool to subjugate whoever they wanted to subjugate. That's what Christianity did when they took over Europe and they killed, raped, and murdered all the Europeans and forced them to become Christians. They do the same thing everywhere they go. They send their missionaries, which are an advanced party. They soften you up, and then they bring their guns, their cannons, and their trickery, right? So we're having a good conversation in the comment section, and here comes this person from Kenya, all right, who is arguing me down about how I got the gall to talk about, you know, talk about it like if I know more about Christianity than how we black people became Christian than him, because he's Kenyan, right? Then he goes on to explain how his great grandfather used to work for the British missionary and all this stuff. So and how, you know, he was traditionalist, and you know they basically converted over willingly. And this Kenyan was telling me that Christianity was mostly spread by missionaries in a peaceful manner. He was fighting against the assertion that Christianity was forced upon, you know, the people, right? Forced upon our people, right? When that's not our true religion. That's a carbon copy of our religion, which was forced upon us, right? And right then and there, and the arrogance of this Kenyan guy to tell an African American who's a result of British missionaries coming to West Africa, converting our people and using their trickery to bring us over here to America to build their great Christian dream, United States of America. The nerve of this guy to think that he can stand upon a pedestal of Africanness, right? And think that I'm somehow lesser because I'm an African American, right? So it's clearly he would know more than me because he's from Kenya, right? And I'm from here. Even though I legitimately live with the same British oppressor that oppressed the Kenyans, right? I legitimately live with those people in their created homeland, right? Like, African Americans have had access to real information for a long time. We are the vanguard to African history. They don't teach African history in Africa systematically. They teach it here barely, but just gives us just enough for those who are curious enough to go find out, because all the information is here. Because see, white people, they took all of our stuff and they took it where they live. And guess what? I live where they live. All right? These museums in Washington, D.C. are full of the plunder of the world. What are you talking about? You can't tell me. And I'm also a college educated historian. So I be knowing what I'm talking about when I'm talking about history. And the nerve of this Kenyan, just because his granddaddy worked for the missionaries, which explains it all by itself. That right there explained it to me. I'm like, okay, so you were one of the ones who worked with the oppressor, who were actively oppressing their very own people. You know, and the thing is, it's okay, you know, it's okay to be a Christian. It's okay to be a Muslim, right? It is what it is. But what is not okay is to conflate or change history so that it's a softer landing for the thing you want to believe in. Now, if you want to be Christian, fine, right? If you believe that doctrine, if that makes you feel good, if that it puts you in the spirit, it makes you a good person, no problem. Even though I will continue to say you should probably scrap the fake stuff and go to the real stuff, but neither here nor there. But what we're not going to do is sit here and change history so you can feel good about your religion. The fact that this dude said Christianity was spread mostly peaceful let me know that this guy is just a Christian apologist, and he don't want anybody to talk trash about the Christianity that his grandpappy or his great grandparents, who collaborated with the British government against his people, right? He didn't want to mess that up. He wanted to still look good, right? That tells me this guy does not know any history at all. Christianity, the whole way Christianity has spread across the world is through death, destruction, and mayhem. That's literally its hallmark. It's in the book itself as well, right? So, and I run into African Americans who have their own ways of using cognitive dissonance of saying, you know what, I'm still gonna be a Christian, because obviously that's all you know. You grew up, your parents told you you're Christian, your parents forced you to go to church, so that's just in there. You just don't want change, you don't want to think about nothing different, you want to make sure you go to heaven. You holding on to that Jesus Christ like insurance policies, you're just not quite sure, even though most of y'all never read the Bible and you don't believe 99.99% of the Bible. You only believe the parts that benefit you specifically. Trust me, that's how I know most Christians are not even really Christian. You don't really believe the Bible because you ain't read it, and if you read it, and if you actually read it, you'd be like, nah, I don't believe that, I don't believe that, I don't believe that. You pick and choose the things that you believe. Same people do with Islam. You pick and choose the stuff you want to believe in these books that you guys fight so hard to keep inside, to keep in your head, fight so hard to keep these religions that you don't practice or believe in most of it, right? But you want to hold on to that Jesus because that's your insurance ticket, just in case, there is a heaven and you want to make sure you go to the right place. I totally understand that, right? But a lot of these continental Africans, all right, I can say this because I know it to be true. You guys don't have any comprehensive African studies and history classes in your institutions. So almost all the stuff you learn is either something that an African American or a really good African history teacher who happened to be European in America or the UK or Canada taught you, right? Or you went to one of these institutions, you came over here, you went to school, and you learned something, right? But some of you Africans, continental Africans, need to understand, if you're from Kenya, you can't talk about you don't know the West African experience. You don't know the transatlantic slave trade. You don't know the experience. You can't tell me that Christianity wasn't beaten to my ancestors. You can't tell me that. That tells me you don't know the history of nothing. All right, the history of West and Central Africa is different from the history of East Africa. You guys had to deal with the British who wanted to stay in Kenya. We had to deal with the British that wanted to make a new country called America. Same white people. They had two different modes of operation. At the same time, you guys didn't deal with that. So some people, if you don't know the knowledge, keep your mouth shut and learn. If there's something I don't know about East Africa, guess what? I'm gonna keep my mouth shut and I'm gonna learn. I'm not gonna try to be a contrarian and jump into conversation and try to sound like I'm bigger than I am when I'm not, right? That's why a lot of you East Africans, when y'all get into these conversations about the transatlantic slave trade, when you get into these conversations that mostly involve West and Central Africans, and you East Africans ain't really got nothing to do with it for the most part, except for here and there and a few things, some of y'all need to just be quiet and listen and learn so that you will understand what's going on, understand what happened, and you can take that information and then you can go use it somewhere else. But yeah, the Kenyan dude, I guess maybe he didn't know who he was talking to. Maybe he just wanted to be in a conversation or whatever, but I tend to run to, every now and then, I run into a few continental Africans who feel like they can speak for the entire continent, like as a country, when it comes to certain things that's not cultural continuity, but activities that happen to specific groups in Africa. They feel like they can speak on it and speak against African Americans as if we are that far removed from Africa. Listen, I live on the East Coast of America. Most African Americans live on the East Coast of America. We are 6,000 miles away from West Africa, okay? So between here and West Africa, there's 6,000 miles. And in between that, there's water, okay? There are places in Africa that's further. There are African countries and African people that's a further distance than I am as an African American to West Africa. The only difference is in between there is not water, but it's sand, dirt, and grass. That doesn't make me any less African. It don't make none of these African Americans here less African than you on the continent. Because I'm telling you, a Kenyan and a South African are probably about the same distance between each other than I am between West Africa. Give or take a couple hundred miles. But y'all get what I'm saying. Not exactly, but y'all get what I'm saying. So yeah, man, some of y'all pompous continental Africans need to get y'all shit together. Just like we be putting our African Americans, they be talking shit, they don't know what the hell they talking about. They be talking about Africa, never been there, never even watched one Discovery Channel video about Africa, yet they know everything about Africa because all they do is listen to the propaganda of the white European. Just like I called them, I'm gonna call you ignorant Africans out who think that because you were born there that you inherently know more, when that's just not the case about 90% of the time, unless it has something to do with specific cultural practices that you practice individually as a tribe or nation or town or whatever group you're a part of. But anyway, that's all I got to say. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach them. I'm out.